some more of those temperatures and any precip. We'll be back. Wednesday to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Day Planner. I'm Heather Tesch along with Carl Parker. And yes, we have that bitterly cold air that has taken over in the east. And in fact, it's so cold that we set some record lows this morning. Gainesville, you hit 20 degrees. That was a record. Jacksonville was 22. You tied a record. And one of the areas where folks were concerned is in Plant City. And that's because of all of the precious crops there. Let's find out more from Eric Fisher.
Much.
And you know, when those plants go dormant, they actually help protect themselves when you do get into these colder conditions. Well, let's find out more about Florida, and here is Carl with more. Us have had resolutions that we set for the new year, saying we're going to get out and exercise and eat better and all those things, and I think I've already kind of messed up that one. But as we, go ahead in time, this really will be a nice weekend for you to spend some time outside. Carla went and grabbed your clicker instead of mine, and it's going to be one of those weekends where once again you'll see many places will be quiet. You're going to have quite a bit of sunshine in a lot of spots. Thank you, Carl. And so it will be a good one to get out. And I don't know about you, but after all of the festivities we had with Christmas and New Year's and all the action going on, I'm ready for just a nice quiet weekend. I told my husband I don't want to have any plans. I just want to hang out and really try to just catch up on a few things around the house. As you look here to the north, these numbers, they're chillier than where we have been at times, but I tell you what, that's not unusually cold at all. We're still finding temperatures running average or above average to the majority of the country. We'll be watching somewhat weather sliding from the southeast into the east. Carl? Thank you, Carl. And yes, we will go forward in time. And what's really interesting as you look toward the next 7 days is just the lack of what is on these maps, because here we are in the heart of January, a time when you usually see very active conditions with winter storms. And we have some minor events, but we don't have anything real big, and that is unusual. As we look to Thursday, tomorrow, of course, you're going to see much of the country quiet with sun. This will be a little bit of lake-enhanced snow that we see across the Great Lakes, 1-2 inches, not a big deal. And then we'll find here, too, in the Pacific Northwest, still, we've got that onshore flow. It's pulling in that ocean moisture, and with that, you're going to find some more unsettled conditions. But, that's about it. And also, look into Friday. Not a whole lot happening. We'll start to see some moisture being pulled up from the Gulf, and we'll watch that as we go into the weekend. But again, not any real huge events going on. As we look to the numbers, one thing that is going on, very warm conditions. If you like the warm air, you've got it in so many spots. Watch them on Saturday, because while we will be warm in a lot of areas, we're starting to watch for some wet weather coming in. That's that Gulf moisture spreading a bit more to the east. That will continue to slide toward the coast as we go into Sunday. And behind that, you're going to find the temperatures coming down a bit, but still, we're talking about, for so many of you, above average temperatures, and for so much of the country, again, quiet conditions. Just amazing when you consider this. As we go beyond Sunday, again, we're watching Sunday with the wet weather. We're watching the numbers coming down a bit, but still very mild in so many spots. The west definitely comes down from where we're going to be this week. Then into Monday, watching another system in Texas. Now, potentially this one could have a little bit more beef to it. It's still very early on, but we're also going to monitor that for potentially some colder air coming in too. So we'll follow that as we go into next week. But in the meantime, it's still quite a ways away. A lot could happen, but we'll continue to watch that potential for rain and then ultimately some cold, Carl. It is 20 before the top of the hour. That means it is big picture time. And a lot of times this time of the year, we can show you some very active conditions when we look at the big picture. Not so much right now. It has been a rather quiet winter. We continue to see that. We do have some weak systems that we'll be following, and they will bring a little bit of action with some wind. Not a whole lot in terms of precip, except for some lake enhancement as they pass by some of the Great Lakes. Now, one area where folks love to see Well, right now we have high pressure across the south giving us lots of sunshine for today. But as we look to the western part of the country, watch for a system diving out of the west, continuing to trek its way here to the east. And with that, it's going to tap into Gulf moisture. And so as we go toward the end of the week into the weekend, expect some wet weather here coming in across the southeast. You will find that working here through Alabama, Georgia, and then eventually making its way up the coast. Not a bad thing to get some of that wet weather in some of these areas. Much of Georgia here, we are still talking about these drought conditions. In fact, look at this. Nearly 90% of the state here remains in a moderate or worse drought. So bring it on when it comes to the rainfall. Carl? I'm not so sure. I'm actually wanting mine to grow a little bit. All right. As we look here to the weekend, we were just talking about Chicago. Terry was. It's one of the places where if you haven't returned or gotten rid of your tree yet, you can actually take it to one of the many stations they have there for recycling. I'm sure all the cities throughout the country have some sort of recycling program for those trees. As we look to Saturday, we're going to note that we have rain coming in, needed rain across the southeast, beneficial, but we'll also find that the temperatures will be very mild on Saturday through much of the southeast. And a quick check into Sunday, our system slides eastward, so watch for some rain to spread up the east coast. Carl? And hopefully you're having a good Wednesday. So glad you're here with us this afternoon or morning for some. I'm Heather Tesch along with Carl Parker. And bitter cold, well, it has made its way into Florida, and it actually has been threatening crops. In fact, right now temperatures are on the rise. Frost off of the sensitive fruit to protect them from the bitter cold. In fact, meteorologist Eric Fisher is in Plant City, and that is the strawberry capital. Here's a closer. We'll be finding some fairly quiet conditions. Now, we will have a little bit of action coming in across the Great Lakes. Another system will slide through, and once that passes by, you'll have some lake enhancement coming in. Otherwise, you look to the northeast. This is taking you through this afternoon into the overnight and then into tomorrow. And other than some of those lake effect areas, you'll see very quiet conditions. The trend also as we go into tomorrow will be warmer temperatures than today. I know some of you started out rather cold. 17 in, was it Washington, D.C. today? I think it was down to about 11 in Boston. So it was a nippy morning for many of us. As we look here to the Midwest, here too, things can get rather cold this time of the year, but we're not seeing any super cold air. Marquette could see a few flakes. This is taking us now into Thursday. And look at these numbers, still mild conditions, a lot of sunshine to add to that in the south. Yes, we've been talking about a chill to the south as well. Some of these areas started out with temperatures in the 20s, some even in the teens, but now we're going to find that the weather will be warming up in the days to come. You're going to have a lot of sunshine across this area over the next couple of days, and even with the cooler numbers, you'll find that with that sun, it'll actually feel pretty nice out there. At least it's going to look beautiful. I always say, I don't mind the cool air so much as long as I do have that sunshine around. It's those gray, dreary, chilly days, Carl, that can really get me down. Big picture time. It is 10 minutes past the top of the hour. High pressure, you can see that in charge across the west. The west also with a big ridge in place. We actually have some very warm temperatures. Some of you will be looking at some record numbers as we go through the week. Some of those temps, though, will be coming down. We'll also see a series of systems riding across the north. Won't produce a whole lot in terms of snowfall or rainfall, but they will pick up the winds from time to time, and you'll see a little bit of those flakes flying. Also watching the Gulf as we get toward the end of the week. As you look here across Tennessee, things are fairly quiet. Our focus forecast right now is Nashville, and we've got that high pressure in charge in Nashville. It is going to be a nice day out here. Look at this, 45 degrees, lots of sunshine, maybe a little bit cool for some of you. Your taste might rather have some warmer air. Some of you, though, loving some of the cooler temperatures. A lot of times in the family, there's one that likes the warmth, one that likes the cold, and you'll find that you can't always please everybody, but high pressure, that sunshine, that should please a lot of folks. As we continue to go toward the end of the week, though, we will be tapping into the Gulf, and some of this moisture will be coming up. With that, areas like Nashville will be picking up some rainfall, so we'll follow that as we continue toward the weekend. And there we go on Saturday with 55 degrees. Notice the temperatures, though, certainly are going upward. Carl, so many of us have kind of pledged in this new year we're going to eat better, we're going to exercise more, and A few of us have probably already broken those New Year's resolutions. I know I've kind of broken them a little bit. As we go into Saturday, wet weather will be following that in the south. This is beneficial rain for some of the areas like Georgia, still in a drought, significant drought, moderate to even worse over about 87% of the state. As you look to the numbers, still very mild in the south, and temperatures to the north, while they are cooler than where you've been in some spots, they really are pretty typical for this time of the year. They're not running below average for certain. As we look to the east on Sunday, we'll follow some wet weather coming through. Temperatures nudge down a bit for some, and the west will find some of that cooler air around. But still, all in all, things are fairly quiet. Carl? I do like the warm weather, but I know a lot of people would like it colder. And one of the reasons is if it's too warm, you can't get that snow around. And many of you like to ski and snowmobile and all of that fun stuff in the wintertime. We're looking, though, at a fairly quiet go as we move into tomorrow. Again, you know, I keep saying this, but it's just so amazing when you consider how quiet this is. And here we are in the month of January, typically a very active month when it comes to wintry weather. Temperature-wise, we hang on tomorrow to mild conditions in the west. Gradually more of that spreads eastward as we go toward the weekend. So more of you in the east will find temperatures climbing. And look at this on Friday. I mean, it is quiet as can be. We will see just a little bit of action coming in with some of that moisture starting to move in from the Gulf into areas of the south. And for many folks, it will be beneficial rain that's coming in. Temperature-wise, again, we're finding milder numbers. Saturday, more of this wet weather spreads into territory where we have drought conditions. So we're going to see areas like Georgia where we need some of the rainfall, getting more of that rain. We'll find, though, it's still very quiet as we look toward Washington, D.C. and New York. And clouds here in Chicago. By the way, Chicago on Saturday, that's the first day now that they've started, or they are starting their Christmas recycling program. So for those of you that have real trees on Saturday through the 20th of the month, you can actually drop them off at one of their tree recycling areas. As we go into Sunday, wet weather in the east. Otherwise, a lot of the country, very nice weather. You know, the temperatures, too, with them being on the mild side, you may want to get outside, do some of those chores that you didn't get done before we headed into the holidays. Things get so busy, you know, and then it gets too cold as we get in the middle of winter to kind of catch up on some of those outdoor things, to kind of straighten things up in the yard and so forth. Well, looks like you've still got more opportunity. Probably not exactly what you wanted to hear, Carl. And, you know, this weekend, nothing like that week you were talking about last winter when we had all that snow in the south. Instead, we may see some wet weather here in the south as we go into our Saturday. We'll watch that. Moving in here across the Gulf Coast states and then northward as we move from Saturday into Sunday. Rest of the country, for the most part, is going to be quiet. We still have mild air. All that warm air in the west has been driven eastward. We're going to cool it down a bit for some of you across the west, though. And then Sunday, you'll find that it's the East Coast where we follow some wet weather, some snow for some. But in general, as you know, it is fairly quiet across the country. And Carl, also still mild, just a little bit cooler than on Saturday. And please have a fantastic day. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow.
Take care.
Bye.